When I met my wife nearly 15 years ago, I couldn't believe how lucky I was. She was beautiful, kind, and we shared a connection that I hadn't felt before. We dated for 3 years before getting married and now have 2 wonderful kids. We've had ups and downs over the years, just like any couple, but our love always felt steady and strong. 3 years ago, we moved into a new house in a nice suburban neighborhood, hoping it would be the perfect place to raise our children. Shortly after moving in, we became close with our neighbors, who were a family with kids around the same age as ours. We quickly formed a bond and started spending a lot of time together, backyard barbecues, holiday gatherings, and even vacations. Both of our families lived far away, so we became almost like extended family for each other. Our kids played together regularly, and we would often help each other out with little things. I really felt like we had found a great support system, which made the transition into a new place so much easier. But over the past year, I noticed a shift in my wife's behavior. It wasn't just one thing, it was a collection of small changes that seemed to add up. She became more distant, emotionally detached, and our intimacy suffered. It wasn't just that we weren't having sex as much as we used to, it was the fact that she seemed completely uninterested in any kind of connection. Whenever we put the kids to bed and I would try to talk or cuddle, she'd pretend to fall asleep, almost like she was purposefully avoiding any closeness. I felt like I was losing her, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't figure out why. At first, I chalked it up to stress. We'd both work from home, and with the kids and the usual demands of life, it made sense that she might be feeling overwhelmed. Our neighbor, on the other hand, also worked remotely while his wife had a hybrid schedule that required her to go into the office 3 days a week. I never thought much of it until I started noticing some patterns that made me uneasy. My wife had developed a routine of running errands around lunchtime, typically between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. She said she was going to the grocery store or running other errands, and I never questioned it. But after a while, I started noticing that our neighbor's car would leave the driveway around the same time. It didn't matter if my wife left at 11, 11:30, or closer to noon. His car would also disappear shortly after she did, and when she came back, his car would usually return within minutes. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. There were perfectly reasonable explanations for why their schedules might overlap, but the timing seemed a little too perfect. It wasn't just a few times. This happened nearly every time she went out. And with his wife away at the office, the coincidences started to feel like anything but. I didn't want to accuse my wife of anything without proof, and I didn't want to believe that she could ever betray me like that, but the seed of doubt was planted. I began paying closer attention to their interactions. They would see each other every morning at the bus stop, where they'd drop off our older kids. I would usually take our youngest to daycare around the same time, and it never struck me as odd that they exchanged some words or laughs. But after noticing the car situation, I started wondering if those innocent exchanges were part of a deeper connection. When we'd all hang out together, I began scrutinizing their behavior. Did they make eye contact for too long? Did they laugh a little too hard at each other's jokes? I wasn't sure if I was seeing things that weren't there because I was suspicious, or if there really was something going on. After stewing over it for weeks, I'd finally decided to confront my wife about the timing of the cars. I casually mentioned that I noticed her and the neighbor leaving and returning at the same times quite often and asked if there was anything I should know about. She seemed caught off guard for a second but quickly dismissed it, saying it was just a coincidence. She even laughed and asked if I was starting to turn into a conspiracy theorist. I tried to take her response at face value and let it go, but there was a nagging feeling I couldn't shake. It was almost as if she was trying to brush it off too quickly, and I was left wondering if she had something to hide. After our conversation, she seemed to change her routine. She stopped running errands as often, and if she did go out, the neighbor's car wouldn't leave anymore. It was almost as if she knew I was paying attention and made a conscious effort to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Around the same time, his wife also stopped working and was now home full-time. It was easy for me to convince myself that maybe I really had been paranoid and overreacting. My wife seemed to be trying harder at home, being more present with the kids and more affectionate toward me. The worries began to fade, and I started to believe that I had imagined the whole thing. Then came the night that changed everything. Last Saturday, I went over to our neighbor's house for drinks with another friend after we had spent the afternoon golfing. We had all become close friends, and hanging out was a regular thing. We were all a bit tipsy, sharing jokes and stories. It was during one of these conversations that my neighbor made a comment about my wife gagging. He didn't just mention it in passing, he kept bringing it up like it was some kind of running joke. The problem was, it wasn't something that just anyone would know about her. My wife has a sensitive gag reflex, which she occasionally experiences during oral sex. It's not exactly common knowledge, and I couldn't imagine why he would keep pressing the subject unless he had some kind of personal experience. At first, I brushed it off, trying to laugh along with the joke, but inside I was furious and confused. The next day, when I was sober, I confronted my wife about it. I told her what our neighbor had said and asked why he would keep bringing up something so specific and personal. The look on her face said everything. It was like a deer caught in headlights. She froze for what felt like an eternity, her eyes wide and her face pale. When she finally spoke, she said she had no idea why he would say such a thing and that she had never talked to anyone about it. Then she tried to laugh it off, saying that if she were going to cheat, it wouldn't be with him because he was a nerd. But the way she said it felt forced, and it didn't ease my suspicion. The pit in my stomach only grew from that point on. It wasn't just the gagging comment, it was everything. The suspicious timing of the errands, the way she had pulled back emotionally, and now this awkward exchange. I started replaying every interaction in my head, every look and gesture that I had noticed over the past year. It felt like I was connecting the dots, but I wasn't sure if I was creating a picture that wasn't really there. I needed a sanity check, some kind of validation for what I was feeling, because I didn't want to accuse my wife without solid proof. I've been wondering if I should confront the neighbor directly or even talk to his wife. Part of me wants to get to the bottom of it, no matter the cost, but another part is terrified of what I might find. I don't want to destroy two families based on suspicion, yet I can't ignore this gut feeling that something isn't right. I've even considered setting up a hidden camera in my house or trying to track her movements to find out the truth. I hate the idea of spying on her, but I don't know what else to do. If I'm wrong, then I'm just a paranoid husband who let jealousy get the best of him. But if I'm right, then I've been living a lie, and everything I thought I knew about my marriage is a facade. For now, I'm trying to keep my cool and not let this consume me, but it's hard when the doubts keep creeping in. It's like a constant battle between wanting to trust my wife and fearing that I've already lost her. I just need some clarity on what's really happening before I can figure out what to do next. I'm open to any advice or insights from this community because at this point, I don't know where else to turn.